to have a good friend from Arizona, Mr. Ciscomani.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Secretary, for being here with us today. As you know, in my home state of Arizona, Interstate 10 connects our main cities of Phoenix and Tucson, and it serves as a critical artery for many individuals who frequently travel back and forth for work, for pleasure, for tourism. It's also key for security and more. And as our state has grown exponentially, so has the need for an expansion of the I-10. This interstate serves as a major corridor for our state and our region, facilitating international trade and commerce as well, but it's become a dangerous portion of the highway with only 2 lanes in each direction and creating a bottleneck. So every time I go home, I hear from my constituents about their growing frustrations with the worsening traffic on the highway and the dozens of accidents occurring due to a lack of proper infrastructure. A few months ago, I was disappointed when this administration denied my state's mega grant application for an expansion of the I-10. And on December 16th, 2021, the Federal Highway Administration, an agency within the Department of Transportation, of course, issued a policy memo encouraging states to prioritize using Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act formula funds for road and bridge repair over capacity expansion. This memo has since been rescinded, prioritized the implementation of partisan policies and disregarded congressional intent. So can you please tell me about how the Department of Transportation is prioritizing infrastructure project grants and how Arizona can be more competitive moving forward?
Well, first of all, let me make clear that we recognize there's no one-size-fits-all policy. While we want to make sure that transportation policy and choices reflect things that America has learned over the years, including the effects of highway expansion on induced demand and the fact that sometimes it is not the solution that it seems to be. It's also certainly still the case that there are places where expansion is called for, and often the places where that is most likely to be called for are in high-growth areas like what we see in Arizona and the West. And in any case, as both iterations of our federal highway guidance made clear, with regard to formula dollars, these decisions are up to the states. In terms of the application you referenced, I do want to make sure it's well understood that we received far more excellent applications for the mega program than we could fund. We were able to say yes to approximately 4% of the funding, which meant, of course, 96% worth of the applicants went away disappointed because we had about $20 billion of applications for about $1 billion of funding. However, of course, that was only the first year of the program, and that's only one of many programs. And so you have my commitment that if we haven't already, our team will get together with the project sponsors for that I-10 application and make sure that they know everything that would be useful to them in making their application as strong and competitive as possible, both for future rounds of MEGA and potentially other programs that it might qualify for.
I do have one more question, but before that, I want to just say that looking at the fiscal year 23 grants, it seems that most of the projects that you're referring to that receive the MEGA grants incorporate bicycle, pedestrian, or transit infrastructure. So I just want to ensure the DOT isn't letting a political agenda prevent states like mine from receiving much-needed grants. So to my question, according to your budget, DOT expects to pay about $70 million for rent and utilities in fiscal year 2024, in addition to expenses for maintenance and repairs of its headquarters. Given your current telework policy and the 20% office vacancy rate in D.C., I have concerns that this world-class space is not being utilized by 5,000 DOT headquarters staff. What is your headquarters building current capacity rate, and how does that compare to what it was before the pandemic?
So without having the numbers off the top of my head, it is certainly the case that there are fewer people in the building any given day than there were pre-pandemic. And while I would note that the majority of our workers across U.S. DOT are in work environments from truck inspection facilities to air traffic control settings where remote work is not an option, for the office jobs, telework has become an important dimension of how they work. And while I think we still have not seen the final version of what the new normal will be like for office work in general and for federal office work in particular, I believe it is likely that there will be substantial taxpayer savings from right-sizing our office footprint to reflect some of the gains in efficiency that might come from more flexible patterns, things like reservation systems for spaces. And there's a modest but meaningful part of our budget request, about $6 million for things like procuring a system to manage that and digitally mapping our spaces so that if we're not just going back to the way things were in 2019, we're seeing taxpayer savings along the way from more efficient use of the space we do have.
Well, thank you. I have more on this, but I'll save it for round two. I don't want to get in trouble with the chairman. I'm already sitting in the unique spot down here. I don't want to get into more trouble. Mr. Chair, I yield back.
We could